Once again, welcome to everyone who's here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so pleased to introduce Chef Leisha Barnett, who is the facilitator for today's session. Chef Leisha is a professional chef and she's a master food preserver. And she has done incredible work to build the program site in Stockton, our ESY program site in Stockton. And so much of that has involved collaborating with partners in the local community to create robust and really meaningful programming for the community there. So I'm so excited to introduce Chef Leisha, and thank you so much, Chef Leisha, for facilitating this session.
Hi, thank you, Russell. Thank you so much for getting everything started. Yes, so in the chat, I am seeing lots of responses. So excited to see those comments, and we will get to a lot of those in this talk. So I am going to share screen and we'll get started. You can continue to put your ideas, your questions, and all the things that you are really looking for. What do you need and how can I help is the mindset of this session. And we are going to have a conversation. I'm not going to do a ton of talking at you. I want to leave plenty of room so that everyone can ask their questions and we can just get right into like, the nuts and bolts of how I actually have been able to kind of just learn my way around. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to start with the, okay, hold on 1 second. Can you all see my screen there? All right. Let me know if you can see this. All right, to start things off, I am Chef Leisha, and here are some of the responsibilities and duties that I have at Edible Schoolyard Project. I am one of the chef teachers on staff, but I work pretty much exclusively in Stockton. And we have a combination of on-site cooking classes and field trips that we are designing through at our farm. I run the virtual family night program with Russell. We have a once monthly virtual family night program where we go on Zoom and we cook together and have an amazing time with the community. So that's one of the things we do. CSA recipe development and curriculum design. I partnered with our team members, Raquel. She has taught me so much about creating curriculum and designing special events and field trips for the kids and the families. And then the CSA program that we have in Stockton, everybody gets recipes and information on how to utilize the fruits and vegetables they receive in their CSA box. And that is one of our ways of uplifting the community, just not giving them something, but also showing them how to use it. We have several community dinners that happen in Stockton, as well as our social media management, day camps, special events, and my favorite, the youth volunteer coordination. So yes, these are some of the duties that I have at the Edible Schoolyard Project. My favorite one is the one on the bottom, the youth volunteer coordinator, because I get to work with young people who really, really do want to give back to the community. And it is really exciting to see their dedication to the community that they belong to. And so that is really where a lot of the program development really started. It started right there where I was needing to organize and get all of the kids and the adults together. So next slide, please. So the foundation of our work here at Edible Schoolyard Project, as well as a lot of you in the room, is through equity, self-determination, empowerment, allyship, and of course, food sovereignty. It really is, we are in a space of decolonizing the wellness industry, whether it is something we set out to do or not. In the very beginning, it really is what has happened as a result of the work that we do. And one of the things I think about when designing field trips and experiences for the children at the farm is really understanding that when we teach a child to mindfully prepare a meal and eat that meal with such um, amazement and awe, and give them the space to really sink their teeth into it, or we're watching them frolic in the pollinators, this is actually decolonizing the wellness industry. We are teaching these children to be allies, to be empowered, and to move forward and with hope that they may or may not have experienced or will experience at home. So it's very important that we keep this in mind, because the kitchen and the garden are like such valuable tools that we use to actually deliver the messages here in the foundation of our work. It's something that lots of other people in the community will support when they know what you and your work is all about. Next slide. So why do we focus on community relationships? We really can't achieve our mission and goals as effectively without them. We can do certain things, but with these partnerships, our reach, our stretch, our expanse is so much farther, so much wider, so much more dynamic and effective, because we have other people there to support us. And I don't know if you guys know, but the Stockton team specifically, it consists of 4 people. 4 people run the entire team. So imagine how much work that would be if we did not have the support of the community around us to really push forward a lot of our projects. Next slide. So what's the first step? Where do you start? Here at ESY, we love to have visioning sessions, and we sit down and we bring out all of the arts and crafts materials, the pens, the papers, the markers, and we sit down and we go over every little detail. We think about and keep in mind the foundation of our work, and then we start to plan accordingly. And in order to really work with your partners in the most effective, efficient way possible, you have to start calendaring. The first question they always are going to ask when you start to establish partnerships is, when is this happening? What do I need to do? And you have to be prepared to give them that information first. So sit down with your team. Maybe it's just you, your team is really small, right? Or it's a couple of people, whatever it is, you sit down and you think, what would I like to accomplish this year? And that can be the calendar year, the fiscal year, the school year, so on and so forth. And you look at your calendar, you look at your school district calendar, you look at vacation schedules, holidays, long weekends, all of those things. And then you start to map out what you want your year to look like. These are not hard dates. These are dates that can be flexible, but it really starts to build this scaffolding where you start at the bottom and you just, at the top, and then you just work your way down. Once you have a solid concept of what you want to accomplish and what you want your calendar to look like, you have a better idea of the proper connections that you can make within your community. And one key thing to remember about this is every partnership has its own specifics and details about how you're going to move with each other. No 2 partnerships will look the same. And so we have to give space for everyone for you not to be as rigid, for you to be flexible, for you to understand that the organizations that you partner with are going to have some specific roles. Sometimes there is a one-off role where you are partnering with an organization for one event only. And other times it will be a longer relationship. And that really depends on the entities involved. And it really is more about helping each other rather than them doing something for you or you doing something for them. Next slide. So who do you reach out to? Your stakeholders are going to be other similar nonprofit organizations, and there are going to be some surprising ones in the mix. If you look at the list here, you'll see I have found people from all of these different organizations and businesses who find themselves to be stakeholders in what we are doing at Edible Schoolyard Project. And these people are willing to help and be a support to your programming in many different capacities. So this is a nice list you can write down and really just think about, once you know your mission statement, your goals, your hopes and dreams and big picture and all of that for the entire year, you can start to isolate the people and entities within that group, in these groups, who are going to be able to support your mission, your goals, and how you can support them as well. Next slide. This is the one no one wants to talk about. Political partners. Okay, my advice, remain apolitical. Don't do it. Do not really align yourselves into formal agreements with political partners. And the reasons here are kind of a nuance, because some you would understand and others, okay. So let's get into it. Political partners are not sustainable. When they leave office or if they are removed from office, many times a lot of the initiatives and partnerships and things they have done end up being pulled or changed and amended in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And what that will do is that will leave your program in a limbo situation where you are unable to move forward. And without realizing it, you may also create animosity with other potential partners because of their feelings about that particular person or entity. So it can actually harm your goals to align yourself with a political entity. And it's not the same as an endorsement by your local school board, mayor, or chamber of commerce or anything like that. What I'm talking about here is specific partnerships where there are goods and services exchanged between these political entities and you. It is okay for the mayor to say, we love your program. It's great if the school board is like, yes, we love your program. Those are not the type of partnerships I'm saying, or like, you don't want a contractual style of partnership with anyone in politics. And it's just, to be on the safe side, you don't want to do that because it really can end up harming the bottom line. Next slide. So how do you establish these partnerships? We will start with an MOU, which is known as a Memorandum of Understanding. And that is just basically an agreement between one or, two or more parties. And we'll get into how to develop that. But my first MOU was not a great one. I really didn't know how to do it. I just had a meeting with someone and we started talking about things that we were going to do and put it in a document, and that's where it was left. So after many different types of partnerships and many more MOUs written, I'm now ready to share with you some of the great things about creating an MOU. Next slide. So what is it? Yeah, it's a memorandum of understanding, but it's really just a fancy term for an agreement. It's a soft contract that you keep on file that keeps everyone aware of their responsibilities. What I use for my MOUs is Google Docs. And just because it's easy to use, we already are using Gmail Suite for everything. And it is one of the easiest documents to edit and make changes. And then you can turn it into a PDF when you need to really solidify it. But it's one that you can easily share information with between you and the other parties. And an MOU outlines a clear understanding of for all parties. It gives you this level of accountability that is sometimes missing from verbal agreements. Basically, with an MOU, you're going to sit down and say, this is what we are agreeing to do and in what capacity. So for instance, if I am planning a spring break camp, the 3-day spring break camp that we had in Stockton, I'm going to create a memorandum of understanding between myself and the other entity that was our partner, which was Unbound School. And what we did was we discussed what role each person on each team was going to have, how that looked, who got paid, if anyone needed to get paid, who did what, and it really is this document of accountability for everybody to say, well, that didn't get done, but who was responsible for it? So in the MOU, you're putting down this, my organization, I will do X, Y, and Z. You will do X, Y, and Z. And both parties are agreeing on that. And we say, okay, we're going to hold each other accountable to these things. What happens when someone is not accountable? Well, then you have to have a conversation. Next slide. So your partners, you have identified who your stakeholders are because you held your visioning meeting, right? And you have come up with a list of potential partners that you want to reach out to because you have your calendar, you have your mission statement, you have your goals, you have all of these things in place. And now it is time to reach out and develop these partnerships. So the first thing I do is I start with an email. I will email, introduce myself, let them know I'm Chef Leisha from Edible Schoolyard Project. I will send them to our website. Share that link. So if there's anything on the side with some very specific information about the organization, then that's in there for them to see. And then I say, look, I would like to meet with you either virtually or in person so that we can talk about ways that we can work together for the following. And then you have some examples and ideas about what events are coming up, what classes or anything like that, and where you see them in that. Because if you don't give them the vision of, I see myself in this space here, they may not understand why you are reaching out to them and how they can, you and them can connect. So sometimes they don't respond right away. I always follow up with a phone call or email after 3 business days. And usually it's just a reminder of, hey, I sent you an email. I was wondering if you had a chance to meet for 15 to 30 minutes to talk about this and then go from there. Next slide. So you've set up your meeting and now it's time to get organized. What you need to do is give an overview of your ideas to them and really help them understand why you reached out to them. What made you decide that they were a partner that you wanted to have? Sometimes it takes a little bit of description and inspiration. And so you can do this virtually or in person, but you really want to say, look, the best partnerships are ones where you are both doing something for each other and it's not a one-sided exchange. And you want to ask for their input and say, listen, I'm wondering if this is a thing or that is a thing, and just let them go ahead and share with you what their ideas are as well. You want to keep a Google Doc of meeting notes. At this time, you start now where you're just fleshing out ideas and it's just this creative space. But by keeping meeting notes, you have something to refer back to. And a lot of times we think we will remember something. I always either have a notebook nearby to write things down or my laptop is open and I am actually physically typing notes so that I will remember. We will not remember everything as much as we try very hard to. So next slide. So the development of the MOU it's a document. You make it as pretty and as fancy as you want or as plain. I don't do all of the fancy schmancy things. It's not a design document. I use Google. It is just a document that outlines each organization, the contact person's information. Email trains can get very thick. You can get in the weeds, and there are phone numbers floating around and signatures and all of that. You want contact information in the documents. You want any dates, times, and specifics, the scope of the event, the work that needs to be done, and any agreements regarding sharing information with your networks. A lot of the work that we do is tied with other grant holders. We have received a grant in our area to operate. And there are other organizations who do similar work who receive the same grant. We do a lot of things together. That is one of our stakeholders because we have the same mission and goals in mind, even though my scope of work may be in the culinary field. There's someone who is in forestry and we have trees on our farm. And then we have air quality folks and we have all of these other people to include in the loop. So the first stakeholders are likely those who are local, possibly already received or are going to receive grant funds or funding from similar sources. Keep running meeting notes in this MOU development space and title it by the organization so that and with the date that the agreement was made. And then you can renew agreements every few months, every year. It really depends on you. Some MOUs we develop for one event and it really or two, or you only are going to work with certain people in certain capacities. Everyone is not going to be a partner for the long haul. And I think understanding that helps a lot as well, because there are things that change of leadership, change of hands, and things of that nature. Again, some of the organizations we work with are nonprofits, and they will have people in positions for this particular fiscal year and not the next. And then you have to really start over with your process. Reintroduce yourself, let other people get familiar, remind them of what you previously did with the other team member, and ask for their input, get their feedback, and consider whether or not you want to continue or create a new agreement moving forward. Next slide. Okay, so now we get to the part where things don't always go as planned. And that's why I said earlier to be flexible and not to pick hard dates where you really are, oh, this has to be done at a certain day and time. Really just understand that life is life and we are still in a pandemic. And while we have moments where things are going really great, we have to understand that things are not going to always go smoothly. Someone is going to get COVID. Someone is going to have some other issues, some family situations, and all of these things. And understand it's not your fault, if it doesn't work out well. Some personalities don't blend well. You have similar goals and missions in your organizations, but at the end of the day, personality clashes, management styles don't work. It's okay. And I think the mindset is just to keep working, because regardless of any of those things, your mission and your goals still remain the same. You still have a job to do. You still have to provide for the children. And you can't, if you get hung up on taking things personally, then you're not going to get very far. And remember that the partnerships are cyclical, like really understanding that there are some partnerships that are short term and there are some that are long term. And sometimes you can identify and know that right away and you will feel it. And other times you may not know until halfway into your agreement, into your event planning and all of that, that you realize, well, we're good together for this, but we're not for anything else. And that is okay. You don't want to get too wrapped up in emotion behind it, because again, when we're talking about community, these are the people you are likely going to see in the grocery store at some point. So you don't want to have bad blood with your neighbors. Next slide. So here we are. Look, that was short and sweet. This is the time for questions. What do you need and how can I help? I have been seeing some of the comments in the chat, and I want to just dig right into it. So Russell can take the slideshow off and we can go on gallery. And I really just want to give everybody as much time as possible to get into some nuts and bolts, because I feel like a lot of times we do presentations and these things, and there's a lot of talking at, and you have very specific situations that you're in right now. And if there's a way that I can give some solutions in real time for what you're dealing with, then I'd like to do that, if that's okay with everybody. So let us get into it. I am going to check this. We've had some behind the scenes, you guys, some Slack questions, some chats. Okay. Do we give stakeholders an annual report? Well, at Edible Schoolyard Project, we do have a board to answer to. So there is a lot of reporting that is done directly to the board. And because we use grant funding for our programs, this is one of the reasons why we keep running documents of meetings, of people, places, things, everything. That way, when it comes time for reporting season and you got people like Russell, Nick, and Aaron behind the scenes, like, I need this, I know where to go and find the info that they are looking for. Is it an example to see an example of the document? I don't have a template. I really just open Google Docs and start typing and put their names, my name. It is not a pretty document situation. It's not a formal anything. It is literally something that you and one other person, two other people, so on and so forth, will get a look at. And that's it. So you don't have to overthink that document portion. I really just wanted to say that. Okay. Ooh, okay, Lisa, she said, starting a garden for the first time and the topic of forming a team of directors, committees, and volunteers. Is there a template for this structure or any recommendations? I wish there was a template. Let me tell you guys, we got a farm last year. We weren't expecting to get a farm and we just went with it. And we started to identify areas that we needed as we go. And it really has been this very organic evolution. And so we don't have a template yet. I really do feel at some point we will be able to outline for the public really what our process was, but it has really been this like pivot in the middle of a pandemic. Okay, I guess we have to do this, and boom, let's just do it. So yeah, there's no tip. Any pro tips for how to build school administrator buy-in to fund the garden maintenance program? Invite them to the farm. You got to schmooze a little bit. It's not my favorite thing to do, but people will show up if there's food. As a chef, I make food. Have snacks, have food. Create events where they can come and they can see your programming. You can describe the mission, the goals, all of the things that are fantastic about your program. You go ahead and get to getting, and you just tell them the community benefits when the children are not bored. The community benefits when the children have what they need. Because as we know, once that middle and high school thing starts to happen and there are no resources for children, they're out in the streets, they're doing crazy stuff. Like, no administrator wants to hear that. So getting to the real is, I think, very important. Do I have an email address? Yes, it is Liesha@edibleschoolyard.org, Liesha. Let's see. I hope I'm not going too fast. I really want to try to get as many of your questions as possible. Yes, Suzanne, there are tons of examples of MOUs online. I just tend to type, just start writing. Finding funding sources. Our team behind the scenes has, we have dedicated people who work on fundraising. So that is not my strong suit, but I really do believe that if you reach out to the team, to Russell or Nick, they can put you in touch with some folks who would be really great to help you find funding sources for your programming. If you work for a school district, at the board meetings in the agenda, you will, that you will find an MOU. This is true. If you go to those school board meetings, they have a lot of stuff. Elizabeth, I will message you. Okay. I was asked by admin to connect learning standards to what students do and learn in the garden to increase funding. Do you currently use any standards? Absolutely. Our lead curriculum designer, Raquel, always creates curriculum that aligns to NGSS standards. And so the resource area of our website that has all of the resources and the lessons and the edible education at home, you will see in the notes that there are standards that are aligned for science. It really is up to the educator, but yes, you kind of do need to have that so that the administration will see the bigger picture. How can we ensure resources are allocated equitably instead of relying on who we already know when putting together project partnerships? That's an excellent question. It really is up to you to build equity within your team, within your organization, and finding the resources and allocating them. Once they come to you, you have control, but before it gets to you, you don't, right? When you're putting together your partnerships with these organizations, it's all about the details in the MOU. If you make sure that you are approaching them and letting them know that equity is your top priority and that this is what you need, that is why identifying what you need is so important in the beginning. Because if you identify what you need in the very beginning, then you already know this partnership isn't going to work if they're not an equitable entity. So it gets you have to like kind of do some background work in finding out who the people are, what their organization is about. And no two people are the same. And that's why I said the mission of the org is much stronger than an individual. For example, I worked with one particular organization. A friend of mine was the contact person for that org. That person got fired. And it did affect the timing of some of the things that we had planned to do. But because the mission and goals of the organization itself were solid, and I had made connections with other people in the org, it didn't matter that my contact person was removed from position. We just have to go back to the drawing board in terms of sharing the MOU with each other and talking about who's my new contact person. Are there any items that need to be changed from the last agreement and amended for this agreement, and so on and so forth. And you start the process. It's a relationship building. Okay, so I'm getting messages here on the screen and in Slack. So that's why I'm looking off camera a little bit. Let's see. I'm gonna go back a little bit. Let's see. Elizabeth said that she has a strong support from her local politicians, and we have an MOU and are part of the Balanced Calories initiatives with the ABA. That's wonderful. Local politicians are again, it's a tricky situation, but we really have done well without having to really align ourselves with anybody in that way. We've gotten lots of support from them all, but without having to say, this person provided or this party provided or was sponsored by. I think that's really important to make sure to remember so that you service your entire community, because the children don't know what their parents affiliations and family members affiliations are, and that shouldn't have any bearing on the success of your program. All right, I'm seeing some links in the comment. This looks good. um, Okay, the city gave yeah, a lot of times we get all of that. It's really great when we have the buy-in from the city, from our city and several chambers of commerce, and everyone supports our work. And I definitely reach out to them all when planning. I just don't create formal relationships with them. All right. Is there anybody who wants to go off mute and ask a question so I can hear their voice? That would be cool. Um, um, wow, that's a good one. One of the things that as someone who is always centrally focused on equity in these spaces, right? It is really important to um, not count anybody out. And I feel like a lot of times our own bias will prevent us from reaching out to certain people. And one such situation was my personal feelings about 4-H. I had some issues with 4-H when me and my children were active in it. I was a club leader with a friend, and our particular club was very diverse, and we felt like we were being pushed out of resources by other folks. And it led me to kind of pause a little bit before deciding to reach back out to 4-H for anything else, even though I still have friends. And, I'm like, well, my friends in their club may be cool, but I don't know about anybody else. And 4-H has turned out to be one of our really strong partnerships, because what is better than coming to a farm on Earth Day and seeing goats, like baby goats? They brought their goats, they brought all of their, and the club, even, the leadership had changed. And I want to say that that is something that, really understanding that the people I have made the connections with, they approached me and they said, look, we want to help. We want to do whatever we can at the farm. We want to support programming. We want to share our programming as well. It has been really, really great with that. The young ambassador of our county is really excited to continue to do the work. And he's been one of my cooking class students for a while. And he said, look, Chef Leisha, I got to tell you, it's not what you think. It's not like how it was before. This is a teenager that was saying all that stuff. So it was a reality check to not stay so closed in, and hold on to bias of the past, because the bigger picture is really about what we can do for the children. And so I have been very pleased with that. Thank you for that question, Jesse. I have a question. Sandra says, I wonder about the details for your timeline and strategy, tips for best time to focus on tasks and goals. What are you doing at particular times of the year? Planning, outreach, developing, networking. I'm doing that all times, all year. It is a cycle. That is not something that ever stops. As a part of programming, whenever, we're having an event coming in July, it's okay, planning, outreach, developing, networking happens for every single event. It doesn't stop. And there's no one time where I focus on one thing alone, which is why the organization skills are so important. The problems arise when school is not in session. And I really do feel like that is one of the downfalls of relying on a partnership with the district, is really because a lot of times school gardens suffer greatly in summer. And that is one of the areas of program development where getting your volunteer core program together is super important, because when you have a volunteer core that can operate in and outside of holidays and school calendars and things like that, then you know that your garden is going to be beautiful all year round. We're very blessed at Edible Schoolyard to have employees who are here year round at some capacity. So in Berkeley, there's someone maintaining the grounds. And now in Stockton, we have someone maintaining the grounds at the farm. But if we were still tied to the school district right about now, we don't know what would be happening at any of our schools, because school is not in session. And it's not like how it used to be, where just about every school held summer school. And so school grounds were open, all of those things. So it's definitely one of those things. In creating your volunteer core, I would say the biggest thing to do in really getting your volunteer core together is a combination of the community members, so it reflects the full community. And what do I mean by that? Well, you're going to want your teenagers, they need to have volunteer hours, right? You're going to want your seniors because they're flexible scheduling in terms of being able to come in the middle of the week. And then you want your parents, and you want your part-time employees, and you want your full-time community members, and really just get this list, this gathering of people, to where you can say, hey, you know what? I got a group of kids coming on a Saturday, right? And but that's the only day they can come. Like when you work with students, you already know during the week you're not going to see them. But that's also why you want to work with homeschool groups and charter schools. You know, those are great groups to work with, because everybody, including, if you go back to the slide deck, I mentioned there's a list of different people to partner with. One thing a lot of people don't know is that a lot of organizations have requirements for community service hours, even for adults who are working. So a lot of folks will dedicate certain amount of time because they're with the Elks Lodge and they're going to sponsor a park, a farm, or garden, or something like that. When you have the master gardeners and the master food preservers, they are required to volunteer a certain number of hours every single year to maintain their status. The same with fraternities and sororities, the same with other professional organizations. So really think outside of the box in terms of finding people that you can partner with that will keep the work going, because these organizations, even military members, in order to make rank, you have to have a good profile. And if you go to any recruiting station, you know, and you can say, we need bodies, and they'll say, okay, I got hands, you know, and they can show up and do some work for you. And it's a good partnership for the children in particular, to see a variety of people in different capacities and capabilities on site in the environment. And I always like to think of it like the Sesame Street. I'm gonna age myself a little bit, but who are the people in your neighborhood? It just, every time I get ready to create MOUs with other partners, it's always who are the people in your neighborhood? Literally, you go to the people in your neighborhood to really enforce and fortify the community. It takes all people. Tara says she sings that song all the time. Mimi, I do believe that all the slide decks that were used for the training will be emailed to all the participants. So you will get to see that. I think the biggest thing to remember with that too is that there is some stuff there, but you have to, when approaching these folks for things, um, just not get tired. Don't I feel like that's one of the biggest things to remember is that you know to maintain an understanding that this work is for the kids and that we have to continue to push through, and sometimes it can get to become tedious in our pursuit in search of funding and support, but also remember that do what you can with what you can is another thing to keep in mind. Not all of us have the most fantastic program and setup and all of the things. We don't have our wildest dreams, right? So that shouldn't stop us from doing what we can when we can do it. And I think that's, to keep that in mind, because that is sometimes you won't see certain things for years down the road. But it doesn't mean that you just not keep pushing. So, the kids deserve it. With this program development, I'm not at my desk all the time. I really am somebody who, because if you don't answer the phone and you have an office, I'm coming to the office. If you don't email me within a few days, I will email you again and then come to the office after I call you. A lot of times it's not even just seniors. There are people who are incredibly busy and they are not ignoring you or your emails or anything like that. It's just that we have seen something that has become a crisis since the pandemic, and that is folks who are short staffed. Organizations are short staffed even more than they were before. And what I really like to do is everybody is included in programming. We have a more robust program because we have seniors who will come to the farm, sit on a bench, and talk to whoever comes up and say, no, you don't plant it like that, because if you plant it that way, this will happen. Your expertise, your knowledge, your skills, everything that you have is still valuable. And you bring something very important to the table. So everybody of all abilities and all ages are what I look for when I do programming, because there are certain things I can't do. I'm a disabled vet. I still like to grow food, but guess what? I'm not getting on the ground very much. We do what we can when we can with what we're given, and we really do reach the senior population. There are people that we just call. We're not going to text you. You're not going to text me back. You're not, and it's okay. I will get in the car and show up at the senior center and give you a flyer instead of emailing you a flyer. So I think that's something to remember. The success of the programs that are developed are really hinged upon your ability to really know your community, where you are working, the people, and respecting the level of giving them respect and dignity in the way that they show up. And people can tell when you don't. And if you're struggling with your programming, sometimes it is in that people can tell that you're not quite there. So if you're showing up with dignity, you're showing up with respect, and you're giving that first, then it's much easier to get it in return. And yes, that means you do have to send flyers door to door. You may have to go to the library. The librarians do not answer the phone. I go to the library and physically place a stack of flyers at the libraries. I go to these other places and physically hand a stack to the community centers because they're understaffed. And as much as this man loves to hear my voice, he will not call me back. He will not email me back. He's too busy. So that means that the PDF I sent him of a flyer for an event is not going to get printed because his resources are limited. But I have grant funding to print the flyers and to take them to him. These are the things that we do to ensure that the community is fully looped in to what we're doing. I grew up food insecure in Oakland. You know, I became a chef, joined the military, got out of Oakland and, came back to California. And it is really, truly, as a parent, as a person who has experienced things in life, I know that when the children show up in my space, this is a welcome reprieve from other things. It's a welcome reprieve from their neighborhood, from the stress of life. This is the one bright spot in their day, their week, their month, their year to get to frolic in the fields, to see food growing, to touch it, to smell it, to sit. Sometimes the children get to the farm and they just sit. Right now, thank you guys so much for attending. My email again is Liesha, Liesha at edibleschoolyard.org if you have follow-up questions. And thank you guys just for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we are looking forward to connecting outside of this. If you have any questions, email me and enjoy the rest of the sessions that are coming.